My name is Gerald Olson. My age, 91. I was in the U.S. Army. On my father's side of the family moved here back about 1903. I graduated in 1951. I met my wife in 1951. We got married in 52. I met her in a local restaurant. And as old people would remember, the Wagon Wheel restaurant on the west side where BC Pizza now sits. I got my notice of being drafted in the last part of August, and I was in the service the 1st of October. Well, I was married, and I wasn't too happy about the whole thing, but I took my basic, and not normal basic, because after the second week of basic training, I was transferred from the rifle group of people to Signal Corps. The instructor there said that we were going to be lucky because it was going to be a 9-month course. And in 7 weeks, those guys are going to be going to Korea. 7 weeks, we went to Korea too. We got on a train, a troop train, and went to Seattle, Washington, Fort Lewis, and shipped out, going to 18 days in the water to getting to Yokohama, Japan. 3,600 men, and there was 3,600 sick men. It was rough going over, rough water. I didn't get really sick until the guy that was on the top bunk, he said, "Olson," he said, "just take a little bit of this and stuff it right down in your lip there, and it'll settle your stomach." It didn't happen. It made it worse. We went to Yokohama. We got on a train, went to into Tokyo, into the barracks there. It used to be the Japanese military base, and we were there for a couple of days. And so they put us on a it was just a kind of a cruiser outfit that they sent us into Naha, and we stayed in the remains of a hotel, because this was just a few years after World War II. And we was there for 6 days. Then the ship came by and pulled into the, well, not really pulled into the harbor, because it was still full of sunken ships from World War I or II. And then they took us up to Incheon, Korea. When we got into Incheon, we got on an old train and got shipped into Seoul, and us guys that had been in the Signal Corps, they broke us all up. There's no two of us went together. When I got to my outfit, the headquarters company, 2nd Battalion, 31st Infantry Regiment, 7th Division, I was carrying an M1, and that sergeant said to me, says, "What are you carrying that thing for?" I said, "That's what they issued me in Seoul." Well, he says, "Go check it in." He said, "The weapon of choice here is a .45. So he got me a .45, and I can still remember looking at it, because I'd never had a .45 in my hand before. It was a heavy weapon. And he says, "By the looks of you, you've never even fired one of these." And I said, "No, I haven't." Well, he said, "You will today." And I did. Well, I held that .45 out, pulled the trigger, boom. I thought my arm was going to go backwards. It did. Then he showed me actually how you hold that thing to shoot it. When I was in basic training, they told us, instructed us that when you're out running a new line, is 2 guys go. Well, we got to Korea, and they said, "No, we don't send 2 guys, because we only want to lose 1. So that tells you the life expectancy of a signalman wasn't very long. After having about 3 weeks in Korea, I got my initial bath of the service. On an evening, I operated a switchboard in the battalion headquarters, where the officers were all around, laughing, joking, everything. They didn't know that the Battle of Port Chop Hill was going to start at 6 o'clock the next morning. I didn't know it. Well, I was operating that switchboard in the evening. Well, the next morning, the sergeant woke me up and he said, "Today's your turn." "My turn for what?" And he said, "The line is out at Port Chop. Take it 2 donuts and get a new wire up there." I went. But just before I got to the command post at the top of the hill, I hadn't got there yet. There was an explosion at the command post. Those guys were killed. I got to the top of the hill and I stayed. I used my .45 and then I picked up a rifle from a guy that had been killed. And I stayed. I thought I was there for 4 days. Somebody says I was there for only 2 days. Somebody said I was only there for 3 days. And I never knew whether it was daylight or dark. Easy Company of our outfit was losing the hill. And we didn't get any support from our unit. Battalion headquarters had been attacked from out with aerial fire. Somehow or another, the 17th Regiment was notified, and they came in on the right flank. And the guy come in the trench where I was, and just, you know, and he looked at me and he says, "My God, man, what outfit are you from?" And I told him. He says, "Come on, I was told if I found any guy from alive to get him off the hill." It was 8 days from the time I left my outfit that morning until I got back. Nobody knew where I was. Anyhow, something had an explosion and a piece of it hit my flak jacket, and it didn't break skin on me, but it sure hurt. Because when I took my clothes off several days later, I was black and blue from my armpit to my crotch. It hurt. But this officer said, well, and he had told one of his other guys, one of his men, he says, "Take him down to the officer's shower and get him cleaned up." You know, it's an awful way to live. I was only in that combat several days like that. Some guys have been in combat for a month, you know. I don't know how this kid ever lived through that thing. But of the memories and everything else that went along with it, I live with it every day. As things are in the service, the last man standing gets promoted. I got promoted quite fast. I went from a private E2 to a E5 sergeant in 11 months. Day one since I went in service. And today's Army, as I understand it, takes 16 years. When I got back to the States after serving over there, I tried to get out on an early out. They wouldn't let me out. So they sent me down to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And I just went down there, and I was in a holding company. They should have let me out, but I met lifelong friends from down there. I was in a meeting. The sergeants in the unit was in a meeting, and this young guy come in and he said, "I have a telegram for Sergeant Olson." And I looked, and I said, "That must be me." And he handed it to me. That was from my wife. And she said, and it said, we arrive at Newburgh at 1:15. And I said, my God, I don't even have a car. And this young man, I had never seen him before that I recognized. He reached in his pocket and he handed me the keys to his brand new Ford. And he said, here, Sergeant, use these.